So welcome to another episode of Grapes and Greens. This is episode 8. Back in pitch, Canary Wharf. Absolutely delighted to have met this gentleman, probably only once before, in the height of summer, when we were chatting about wines going into pitch. And currently is the founder of Insight, which is a very exciting catering and hospitality company, which, from a Grapes and Greens perspective, is perfect because we're all about lifestyle. And I think with your career, Des McDonald, I don't think anybody can match what you've done from a lifestyle perspective. So we're delighted to have you on the podcast.
Great to be here. Thank you.
We always start with a glass of wine. Gosborn are our wine partner. And today we've chosen a 2019 rosé sparkling wine from their Kent vineyard. Typical champagne breakdown of grapes, which is great. Always very pleased with Gosborn because they always seem to win awards when we're on coming up to episodes. And they've just won the British Airways Luxury Brand Award for Walpole. So you'll know of Gosborn before. You've worked with them for a number of years, I think.
Yeah.
Olivier has been down, just recently as well. So they're really at the cusp, I think, of English wines. So I'm not sure if you've tried this one, but see what I think.
I have, yeah, but it's a little smell before we started, and it's I think the brand is delicious. Really got a nice sweetness to it.
Yeah, it's really
Lovely,
really sweet,
elegant. I think the elegance in this, I remember it back when we first started using this brand back in the day when we opened Scott's back in sort of 205, 206. And folks were sort of saying British wine, X, Y, and Z, and it's really come on, I mean, I'm going back some years and at Sheiky's, etc. I mean, it's really come to the fore, and it's great to see British brands producing such elegant wines.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. I think that helps when we spoke with Jonathan White, the CEO, kind of in one way, climate change is a bad thing, but certainly for English wines, it's proving to be quite beneficial at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Very much so.
We always start again with a wine story. Have you got, over the years, you must have come across plenty of dealings with wine producers, wine sommeliers, work with them as well. Have you got any, good stories about wine?
I mean, we probably don't have too long enough today. I mean, I guess I've been fortunate in my career to have been on many, many international sort of wine trips. And predominantly, as I guess I went through my career, would end up in slightly more exotic locations, whether that be done in Clos La Chance in California, or it could be one of the sort of key memories with a bunch of my fellow directors from Caprice Holdings. We ended up in Margaret River.
Oh, nice.
And it's fair to say that we had come via South Africa, and it was a 2-week tour, quite an extensive budget put around it for a bunch of us. It was a really exciting tour.
South Africa to Australia was pretty good.
Exactly, yeah, it was phenomenal. But for the top managers and directors within the team, we always took them on a sort of annual or biannual trip with Berry Brothers, and we ended up, as I say, after a late night the night before and a wonderful dinner at a great winery at Vas Felix, and then the following morning we were on the veranda, and there was kangaroos running through the vineyards, and I turned to one of my colleagues, and I still wasn't sure whether I was actually still awake, what was actually happening, but it was just one of those incredible mornings. The mist was rising, the sun was coming up, and there's just literally kangaroos everywhere in this vineyard with a hangover and great company. Yeah, so that's
not bad memories.
Yeah, great memories.
Fantastic, in a beautiful place.
Beautiful.
Yeah, incredible. Nice story. But that was it all started way back. And doing a bit of research on you, you left school at 15 and became a chef. What was that? Family reasons? I mean, growing up on a farm, or what? Was the reason?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm fortunate. So just interesting when I look back in my career. a lot of it's been quite organic, and I guess even in those informative years with my family, who was, as you mentioned, from a farming background, bakery background, chefs, hospitality. My uncle had a great restaurant in San Francisco. So for me, I went to school, absolutely. But for me, I was always going to be in hospitality. It was a natural progression. And I guess in our family, we're hospitable. We sit around a big family table. For us, it was ingrained in my DNA.
Where was home?
Well, home was in Essex, but we also spent a lot of time in Ireland. We have a lot of Scottish heritage as well, so it could be Edinburgh, just outside Edinburgh, or back in Bailieborough in Cavan, or in down in the south in Dublin. So. And then in Cornwall, so very much a wide-ranging sort of setup, but always around great food, cooked in an aga, occasional glass of something nice. But it feels almost quite French in many ways. But back in the day, great bread coming out of the oven. My uncle always used to cook beef, roast beef, or fillet of beef and Lyonnaise onions for our Christmas breakfast. And it was
Christmas breakfast.
breakfast.
Wow.
So those fond memories of great food, great company and family. So that sort of led me on to going to the Ritz, starting my career. And
How did you get that? I mean, it's not like the Ritz. I mean, you just start at the top then.
yeah, I guess back in the day, life was very different than it is today.
So what year was this when you started?
So I would have been 15, so that would have been 1980,
Okay.
79, 80.
Yeah, okay.
Again, it's sort of who you know. And my father knew David Miller. And so got the job, went to Westminster College, and I was tenacious, I was eager, I was interested. And I wanted to learn, and I found it reasonably easy
Right.
to pick up the culinary skills, but also to be. My dad used to say to me, "Be a parasite." I thought that's a weird thing to say, but learn, pick up things, ask questions. And I've always in my career, and I always say to people that work with me, always ask questions, listen to the answer. These are the critical business skills that are transferable.
Work with people who are better than you.
100%. Have those mentors in your life. Absolutely super important. So, and that's where it all began.
Yeah. And did you get as far as you wanted as a chef, do you think? I mean, did you get to, you felt like I couldn't go anymore? Yeah.
So, again, using sort of the organic sort of analogy, working with Chris Corbin, Jeremy King, at the original Ivy in West Street, those heady days.
Because that was very different to the sort of chain that we see. It's people don't realise that, do they?
Yeah, I mean, I think the landscape of brasseries back then, it sort of just felt more special. There was less of them. And I think, therefore, eating out, generally speaking, was more of a special occasion. And, with the explosion, great, but maybe you could suggest there's way too many brasseries on the high street, but that's the explosion of hospitality on the high street. But back in the day, I was at sort of 30, had some conversations internally. I was always interested in management. I find myself being, and those that work with me, quite a strategic person. I like to be a big thinker when possible. So I'm very much a macro guy, and that's something that's sort of come to me, and I've improved upon. And I always liked to work within teams. I've always played decent rugby, decent sport. I like team sport. I like that camaraderie, and for me that transfers easily into working with large teams, both front and back of house. Getting that team spirit, because I firmly believe there's always going to be challenges, but with team spirit you can really move forward. So and then Chris and Jeremy decided they wanted to sell, and they, by tenacity, good luck and good fortune, made me managing director.
Yeah.
And then from there, that began my managerial career.
So from that, because I mean, in a brigade and looking after kitchens, as you said, that team level, we kind of talked about this just before we came on air. But for me, the very best chefs and the very best course managers, in my experience, and I've been very lucky to work with both. They have biggest teams within, certainly in a golf club, they have the biggest teams. You know, you've got to deal with people, you've got to deal with pressure. When I was at Wentworth, that was the first time I'd ever worked with a chef. You know, and I was thinking about you got 90 people in a restaurant coming for a menu of how many items on the menu. You had two private functions, probably 24 and 15 people with set menus, and then you had 240 in the ballroom. And I would be just going, oh my God, how do you do that? But to you, once you're trained, it just sort of fits in. And then it's a bit like that with course managers. When they're trying to deliver the golf course for an event, like you worked at Wentworth, and come on to that later. So Chris Kennedy taught me about that, where he had to bring all of the people from all over the other courses onto the West course to deliver an immaculate golf course for the best players in the world. And that is a skill in its own right. And I think those skills can then go upstairs into the boardroom, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, it's about managing people and enjoying teams, because you can't do it all yourself, can you?
No, I think you're spot on. I do firmly believe that with Insight Hospitality in my previous career, running various businesses, multiple outlets globally, and as you say, to a large team on a golf club that's evolving, and there's so many moving parts. It just comes back to coordination and communication and making sure. And I know we'll come on to talk about it later, but working with retail stores like Selfridges, their work streams, as we used to call it, they're 6, 9, 12 months in advance, because that's the way that their seasons run, and there's a whole massive process behind it. And I think if you can get your business and your company and your teams, your senior teams, to really start thinking that far in advance, everything then comes down to a funnel at the pinch point, at the trigger point, but all the hard work's been done 6, 9 months beforehand. You can't deliver that on multiple levels with a 3 or 4 week lead up.
People used to say that to me when I was at Loch Lomond, chief executive at Loch Lomond. The Scottish Open. It's like, it must be one of the busiest weeks. It's actually, it's not that busy, because if I haven't done the work 6 months before, that's when I'm really busy, because I'm looking at it. I really can't do anything now. If I haven't got things in 100%, place now,
100%,
it's not going to work, is it? No. I can't put on a magic tap and make it work.
No.
You've got to make sure that everything, all the communication is done beforehand, and then you're okay, we're going to go.
And to that point there, I think actually your role then, in any trigger point, is about making sure that the team are relaxed, comfortable and confident. They know they've learnt their lines, they've got their grease paint on, the curtains open, and it's a time to perform.
Yeah. And saying that, you just mentioned about grease paint, was when I was at St Andrews, we had the opportunity to go to the Disney Institute. And that was the thing, is like, they have more unions in Disney than anybody else. So, and they have, I can't remember how many staff, but you can imagine the amount of staff they have. But when they go on, they have to be on, they're performing.
Trying to perform.
They might be going through a divorce, they might not be feeling very well, whatever.
100%.
But if you're Mickey Mouse, you can't have a go at the 5-year-old kid, because he's literally been there all,
the biggest joy for me in my career by far, great being in the boardroom, great doing fun stuff, traveling the world, whatever. But actually, when you pare it back, 5:30 at the Ivy, you've got 300 covers booked, and you've got a team of people around you that are trained. They're all up for it. The hairs on the back of your neck are up. You're on the microphone. Incredible camaraderie.
Yeah.
Great feelings.
Yeah. No, we won large customer service awards for Scottish Enterprise when we were at St Andrews, and I've been there for 2 years, and we delivered it, and we won the award, which was fantastic. But the team was that good. It was like, well, what's next? We're not, and you felt like, and really, I was prepping them all for 2005 Open, because I was just after the Open in 2000. And my whole goal was like, for me on my career, I want to run the best possible Open Championship at St Andrews from a director of services, director of operations. That includes, food and beverage. That includes all of the staff that connect golf together to deliver that one product with the RNA, who are obviously running the championship. But we brought in people from Dubai who I'd worked with before. And you're exactly right. When you're working with a team that gets it, they know what they've got to do. They know what to perform. There's nothing like it as a leader. It's just like,
incredible.
Let's go. You just kind of push it forward and away it goes. And you deliver.
Yeah, outstanding.
Yeah, it's good. So, Soho House. I'd love to talk to you about that because for me, that kind of epitomizes clubs. It was brand new. It was really pushing the envelope. You were trying to deliver to a pretty wealthy but very artistic clientele. What did you take from the kitchen and the management of that to deliver that brand and make it such a success? Because I think a lot of club managers listening today, a lot of people who are driving their cars to work would go, I've got a team, I've got a brand. How do I make it better? And you smash that from what I
I think for context, as I mentioned earlier, I was operating the Caprice Holdings business. I'd met Richard Caring at Wentworth. He had just bought it. And we had a lunch, which I'll never forget. And it was, he was asking me the questions like, what can we do? And the what can we do conversation, you don't have many of those, I think, in your career where I said to him quite openly, look, I know buddies in the industry, whether it's Robin or Mark Burley and Nick Jones at Soho House. And, if you want to spend some money, we can have conversations and maybe we can put like a super group together. And, within 2 years, and lots of millions were spent, that's what we did. And my role really was to work with Nick, who founded Soho House, to try to, coordinate, support, bring in, listen, my view on working with smart people is it's not about trying to indoctrinate anybody into doing things differently. It's trying to suggest ways of working more smartly, effectively, efficiently. But it's easier when you're with a successful bunch of creative people. And we opened lots of new locations and had a ball. But very different businesses. We had the Annabelle's business, very much, an aristocracy styled membership clubs, and obviously, as you say, far more creative industries in Soho House, and it's continued that success even when I sort of moved on in 2011. So, heady days, and my challenge was flexing between the different styles of the brands, as I mentioned, from the original Ivy, Caprice and Sheiky's, then we opened Scott's, then to taking over Harry's Bar and Mart's Club and Annabelle's, and then working with Nick on Soho House, all very culturally very different. But at the core of it, it's, sounds a bit crass, but we're in the business to make money. And I've always had the view that let's drive sales, let's, have great members, who have a great time, but ultimately we're in the business of making money. So that's what we did, and fun times.
Successfully.
Fun times, yeah.
We've had a number of guests on the podcast who are responsible for global outlets. Did you find that you had to change if you were in Miami compared to London, or from France to Cambodia, wherever you go, there's a cultural difference, isn't there? And how do you, because their perception of what Soho House could have been, or the Ivy or wherever, compared to an English person, is very
I have to say that's one of my joys of my career is, whether it be in Hong Kong with David Tang, whether that be traveling with Nick to California, spending time in Argentina or Australia, it's about trying to find your local connectivity as quickly as possible. Who's the person or people on the ground that I can either employ or get to know really well very quickly, because that's where all that culture, that's where all that communication, that's those nuances that you're not going to get sometimes in a boardroom. You really understand the status quo. And that was always been my joy, just getting on the ground, rolling up the sleeves and finding out. And this, again, is 6, 9, 12 months prior to opening anywhere.
Yeah.
It's understanding the market.
Yeah.
And with Insight Hospitality, we work in lots of far-flung locations. And for us, it's always about what does the customer want in that location, really understanding that local market, getting under the skin of it, and those sort of, as I say, those local idiosyncrasies and challenges, the competition. So we can fit into our new conceptual ideas, but you've got to really understand the landscape, and it does differ.
Yeah, hugely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Different people, different cultures.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But and I suppose, but you're dealing
But what
with.
I would say, just to sort of finish that off, one of the biggest changes I've noticed, and many people have noticed in the hospitality industry, I mentioned global destinations, but actually in hospitality and wine, the world is a smaller place these days, and certainly with social media over the last 10, 15 years, the speed of information, the speed of understanding new openings in Papua New Guinea or somewhere in Mexico or wherever it might be, you'll know about it. If you're interested, you'll get that information. So the speed of information and flow, and therefore the customer understanding, because they're much better traveled.
Yeah.
They understand ingredients and all of those international flavors, authentic international flavors, has made a massive difference.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, because if you look at the golf market, it just used to be beer. And then maybe if there was a club match, we might have a claret go on the table, maybe. But it was very beer orientated. And if you think kind of coming into the 90s, then really the new world wines came in and everybody was kind of drinking wine. Whiskey went down. And what we saw was, okay, and then the IT comes in and it's like more people, more restaurants, more bistros, that you're saying. And then I think you make a really good point that from a social media perspective, everybody can see it so much quicker.
Yeah.
So it becomes like, well, that's what everybody's doing, so I should do that. But, it's not feeling like I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it. I know what it is.
Yeah.
We never had that, did we?
No, you
didn't have a clue.
And
you said to me,
didn't maybe feel that your customers may know, some authentic dish from Singapore or wherever, but actually today they know all those ingredients. They've seen them on a cooking show, they've travelled there, etc., etc. So the bar is higher, both from the consumer and from a staffing point of view.
Yeah, what we were talking about earlier in pitch is that you've got to keep thinking, what's next? You're 6, 7, 9 months out.
100%.
What's coming down the track?
Yeah.
Where do you get that inspiration? How do you find what you're looking for? Is that social media for yourself, or is that I've heard on the grapevine that these guys are doing it over here?
I guess I've always, I've always got the radio on. I've always got something on a feed. I love traveling. I adore it, and I love going to new places and finding new things. And for me, that's a joy. So you just, if you're interested, you'll go and find the information. You're chatting, you socialise. That's where sometimes it's a little spark. If it's on a feed, or as a team we've travelled somewhere to do some research, and because you're always looking for that next little thing that's going to just hit the market. It could be a Dominic Ansel cronut some 4 or 5 years ago, but it's those little tricks, those little, whether it's the pastry, is the coffee, matcha still there? Is it going to be there next year? I mean, it's all about trends, isn't it? Following trends. Can you?
In your experience, do the opposite? Do you know when it's like, actually, this is time to go?
It's weird. I mentioned, watch this space about things like matcha. Has it lost its appeal? I don't know. You can sometimes feel it on the shop floor. We work with some wonderful customers, and you can just look at some of the sales reports, and you can just see, and you track certain items. They just start to drop off slightly, and then you sort of amortize that a bit, and you look, a bit wider. And actually, generally speaking, certain things just fall away when some new trends take over. So it's trying to always understand what that curve is, see what that is, and stay current.
Yeah. I know it's a long time ago since you left Soho House, but just recently it was bought for like 2 billion. It had gone down, and I think the new owners are sort of saying like, we're going to build it back up. Are you quite pleased to see that, based on having been, there in the heyday, if you like? Do you think the brand can continue, and do you think with the fresh impetus that there might be still a space for Soho House in the market?
Yeah, look, I think solid businesses will always, if they can continue to perform, be consistent, keep ahead of the curve, as long as their balance sheet's correct and the valuation is correct, and they can keep on delivering, all the better to them. They've gone on to do great things, and I wish them all the success.
Okay. You mentioned earlier Selfridges. What did you bring to Selfridges? Why did they come to you and go, Des, we're a shop. We're a shop. What can you bring to us? What is it? Again, for me, looking at you and understanding where you've been, it's providing that extra lifestyle to a shopping experience. Where what we're saying is, Grapes and Greens, the beauty of golf and wine is the great ingredient to chat about lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different in the boardroom or in their roles, and I guess I've always managed to cut through the BS where possible. And when we were working with Selfridges, Paul Kelly was the group CEO with Ann Pitcher, and then obviously the Weston family, Alana and Galen and Heather. Just had a great relationship with them. And managed to, we opened a derelict roof space. And I guess...
When you say you opened it...
We basically designed a derelict roof space and turned it into a rooftop destination.
Was that just the visions of yours? Or your group, you just walked in and went like, actually, this is completely derelict, it's wasted, we can make this an amazing restaurant?
Well, big... department stores like Selfridges, Brown Thomas, and all the others, they always have heat maps, and they try to understand what their customers are doing. So what you try to do is to draw people into different parts of the building, ultimately to potentially, they can see, clothing lines or whatever they might want to do. So, but it's also, I'm going back, some years back now, but again, studying dwell time. And lots of retail businesses, lots of hospitality business talk about dwell time. When Starbucks were allowing people to sit in a window with one cup of coffee all day, counterintuitive to a lot of businesses, but actually it created energy. And we talk about creating energy a lot in developing a hospitality brand. And with Selfridges, I really learned that how to make them think, or allow them to think out of the box, to drive traffic, to be, I think they were always quite resistant to doing hospitality themselves. But yeah, we had a ball just bringing in new ideas, following trends, following health, following, the brasserie on the roof there was in our heyday doing 600-700 covers a day.
Wow.
Just incredible, unseen.
That's huge.
Huge. I mean, absolutely.
How many covers did it actually have?
That would be 5 turns a day.
Gee.
And people will be queuing downstairs in the perfume department. And again,
how did you spend? Can you remember?
Back then, it was probably around £40 a head. I'm going back a few years back as well.
Yeah.
But just, I firmly believe, the joy of customers going to Selfridges with that beautiful yellow bag. They may have bought something special. Certainly at Christmas time, it's got a wonderful feeling about the store, and other department stores have as well. But then to have a nice lunch on site, obviously today you can go to Brasserie of Light, etc. But it's just, I think for me, a lovely day out. You can go and sit downstairs in the champagne bar and just dwell and hang out and chat and meet. And I think a lot of these social barriers are broken down now in department stores, whereas before you'd wander and then go off somewhere else for a drink or a bite. Now you're staying within the store, so folks can communicate with you on the menus or via social media while you're there.
Yeah.
And that's the joy.
It comes back to your point. We're here to make money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So dwell time, communicate with your customers in all different facets. We're all consumers, and subliminally, we are being targeted at every minute of the day.
Yeah. Lots about hospitality. What about golf? You as a golfer, when did you take up golf?
When
When did you have time? I was just thinking all the things you've done.
I mean, I've always played sport. And
Yeah, you said you were a rugby player.
Yeah. And I took up golf, when I was in my early 20s. And I think in my career, in my time playing golf, it's gone from, I bought a small place down in Spain, down in Costa del Sol many years ago, 25 years ago. And there was an explosion of 50 courses, including Valderrama and Estepona, etc. So I played a lot of golf down there, which improves a lot because, as anyone would sort of bear witness to, golf is a game you need to play regularly to improve. And it's always been fantastic for business. It's always been fantastic to meet friends and to travel. And if you can blend that travel, golf, wine, business, it's a eureka moment. So, but my golf has always been average at best. But I just enjoy going to, playing at wonderful courses, hopefully playing reasonably well. With great company.
Are you a member anyway? Are you a member of a golf club?
I'm a member currently at Chelmsford.
Okay.
I used to be at Stoke Park and obviously at Wentworth.
Okay.
Just been. But I still don't get enough golf in. But obviously, sitting here in pitch is great to come and have a little practice here. Yeah. But I definitely want to play more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. The opportunity to work with Richard Caring at Wentworth. I mean, that was a big news headline buying Wentworth. From Elliot Bernard. Went for a lot of money. I worked at Wentworth from '92 to '95 under Willie Bower, and obviously Willie you'll know from the industry or wherever, and he was taskmaster. I was pretty young then, and on this podcast we've talked about him a lot. So he had a huge influence on me. He got a lot of stick, Caring, for Wentworth
specifically.
Yeah, and the golf course, wherever. What was your role when helping Wentworth? From obviously a lover of golf, you've gone to an iconic venue. What did you try and do and help him with? Getting the hospitality right.
Yeah, I think when I met Richard via Julian Small, who I knew. You could tell quite quickly that Richard was definitely a visionary, and I definitely learned from him. He didn't do things by halves. Surrounded himself with he felt the right type of people. So what we tried to do, Richard would readily admit back in the day he knew nothing really about restaurants and how they operated. But he came from obviously
fashion retail,
fashion and retail.
Yeah.
But tenacious and wanted to know more. So I think it was that sort of symbiosis of really understanding what the requirements were at Wentworth, improve the quality, improve the service, understand your members more from a hospitality point of view. They knew them very well from a golfing point of view, but did they really understand what wine they liked, how they liked their gin and tonic? Would they come back with the family for a weekend lunch? So it's the low-hanging fruit initially, and then really making sure that the event side of things, improving the quality of the chefs, the products, the suppliers, the delivery, the communication and strategy. So very much, and then obviously you then have brands that you can associate to bring in those those brands when customers wanted them for a wedding or whatever it might be. A Harry's Bar, a Scott's, a Sheiky's, events supplied by all those associations, improved wines, and just generally improved quality. But I do think it's ultimately about, for golf clubs, as I say, they do the golf really well, but it's making sure that the hospitality, the food and wine is good enough and attractive enough and consistent enough to keep those members in the club.
And that's where America is very different. America,
culturally very different.
Yeah, and certainly from the country club perspective, it's for the whole family. It's not for the old man to go and play golf at and then come back and, you know, but it's the whole family go, and that's where we spend our leisure time as one. You might be swimming, horse riding, I'm playing golf, but we all come to eat together, you know, to your point.
Yeah. I agree. I think, let's face it, golf takes up, a lot of time, or can do, and therefore, if you can weave that together with the family for those, extra social and leisure activities, fantastic.
Having been at Wentworth, and now where we met, we've had a couple of discussions. Where do you think, globally, you're a global company, golf is moving? Right, it has been a global company, but it's now, since the pandemic, you're seeing younger people. It's becoming a younger people's sport. We're sitting in pitch. This is all about bringing, young females to come and play golf. Whereas, they never go to golf clubs because why would I? Now, actually, this is a great place to hang out. Actually, I quite like golf. The opportunity to grow that market, even if it's by 10%, is massive to the industry, especially from a global perspective.
Yeah.
What do you think you can bring to golf, and where's the future? Are there, again, what you're seeing in the high street, can you bring it to golf clubs, do you think?
I think, for me, I like to be really practical about these things. It certainly isn't one size fits all. Let's face it, you have rural, underfunded golf clubs. But I do think even basic, just great coffee, a simple breakfast done well with good ingredients. I don't think you have to overcomplicate food and beverage for a golfer in that type of setting. Good beer, good ale, a nice glass of wine, good breakfast, etc. So just getting the basics right is what we try to do. Obviously, then you have a bit more funding and you have the opportunity for folks to come and spend more time there. It's looking for us, we are helicopter views on these things and sort of saying, what's the opportunity? Can we match that with funding? Is there an opportunity for that? But it's pointless trying to be successful if you haven't got the funding. There isn't the opportunity there. But where there is the opportunity, it's going back to basics. It's making sure that we put in the right concept for the customer base, for the location. That is going, let's face it, golf probably is busier, seasonally, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Can you have a menu that flexes? Labour's obviously expensive. So there's a lot of matrix behind what we do. It's got to look good. It's got to feel good. It's got to be consistent. But it's also got to make money or not lose money. And therefore, there's a lot of process. So we try to be practical and be bespoke for what the customer needs. You
mentioned In Town, which is an American hospitality group who are working with country clubs. Is that right? That's
and expanding across America, looking to come to the UK and Europe. Again, culturally, they're very well patronised, and these are, in cities, they do have, like Pitch does, some simulators, but I think culturally it's just easier for members to go to their country club. They may not have played, or they wouldn't have played golf. They may have come from work, but it's just having that social environment. That's natural to them. They may have a bit of practice, but it's interesting. They just associate their country club with golf, but there's a simulator, not a golf course, and they're doing really well.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it would appear we had Simon Wordsworth on, and Simon, I'm not sure if you know Simon, but Simon runs the 59 Club, which is now global, but primarily is all about data. It's telling managers and owners this is actually what's happening. You may think it's doing this, but this is what the data is showing. It would appear that you rely on data as well. You were saying like when things start to fall off, you have to look at the numbers. It always comes down to fact, I suppose.
Yeah, I think depending on the size of business you are and location and opportunity, but there's so much great data available. There's so many plug-in opportunities, CRMs and data analytics that you can use in hospitality these days. And we like to plug in a lot of these different systems from the front to the back, understanding the customer, what we're purchasing, what we're spending. Data is everything, and it's there. We just have to make sure it's used effectively and people are trained on it.
Yeah, exactly what Simon was saying. And I think certainly in golf, that is becoming a big thing, which it never was. In my day, yeah, okay, there's data, but are we using it? No. And did we have the resources to capture it in the first place? No, we didn't. So I think that's a big thing for golf and I think that's where Insight, from a hospitality perspective, who understands data, will then look at the data that they've captured and go, actually, this is where we can get to.
We're just launching one of our new sort of spin-off brands, restaurantaudit.com. And we are going into businesses, and I really believe in today's market, where we go in, call it an MOT, we look under the bonnet, it's a 100-point check, and we can tell you within 2 days the efficiency of your business. And we can give you a report on how to turn things around and kick the tires. But, I think there's a lot of businesses out there that don't use enough data. They're flying blind, and they're wondering, they're looking at the cash in the bank, got no understanding of their margins. And that's why I think there's a lot of businesses there teetering on the edge. That's why we've decided to launch this brand to go into the market to help businesses understand, give them some more analytics and help them get back on track.
Yeah, sounds really good. Very good. So if you could start again from a golf perspective, we were at Royal Dornoch, like an amazing new clubhouse. Spent £14 million on the clubhouse, and it was really, really interesting to have you go in there beforehand as well. So from a golf perspective, they get it 100%, and it's very cleverly done. They've been able to go and benchmark to the best golf clubs in the world. They have benchmarked with food and beverage as well, and I think the food and beverage will be a lot better than they're offering at the moment, just simply because of the space that, and they've copied the ideas and benchmarked the ideas. But if you had an open, here's the new clubhouse, go and put something in like a Royal Dornoch or whatever, would you be able to do that? And based on that, they've got plenty of data because they've been there since 1909 and they've got very disposable income clientele, mainly American, probably Scandinavian, Asian, who is a must play, and they're packed. They're packed through until 2028, and they got the Curtis Cup in 2028. So you've got all eyes on them. They've built an amazing building, but the infrastructure from a food and beverage perspective, what do you kind of look at and go, this is a great opportunity? We know we've got the clientele anyway. Both.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, absolutely. That's exactly what we do day in, day out. But, we're all consumers. And a word I used earlier that applies to this is energy. It's creating energy. When you walk into a building of 4 walls, it's about the lighting, the decor, the music, the sound, the smell, the staff, the communication, big openness from staff, the work. Once you create that environment, and then the food and beverage delivers, whether that be a club sandwich or something more finer, you've got to deliver on all levels by creating that energy that members want to be in, and creating that cozy space that you want to relax in and have a drink and a little chat, high, low, louder, quieter. It's about zoning areas. And we do it in our houses, whether you light the candles at this time of year, you light the fire, you close the curtains, the TV's on, music's on the background, whatever that might be. You're creating an environment that people want to be in. Yeah. Understand with the data your customer base, what they want to achieve, and then pulling all of those strands together to bespoke the brand. That's the fun part. Making watch that come alive. As I mentioned at the start of this chat, it's the grease paint, it's the curtains open, and it's performing.
It's getting the people and getting the staff to buy into it. What I was really impressed with Dornock was great leader, got to have that. 2, great enthusiasm from the top and a pride that they sort of seen this thing being built, and now that they were just holding the old clubhouse with plaster. Basically, it was falling down around them, but they got to knock it down anyway. So why spend any more money on it?
Yeah,
and the enthusiasm that's created that they're going to open on the 15th of December is incredible. It's fantastic. And to your point about creating atmosphere, you can all do it from this pad that's,
yeah,
and that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about using enthusiasm, but now modern day techniques to create, and then using the data to finish the job off, because we know what you want before you come in. All we've got to do is try and create it and then serve it.
And we know ourselves when we go back to businesses, we generally go back after 3 to 6 months just to do a little check back.
Yeah.
And wholeheartedly when you go back and it's improved, it's consistent, it feels right, and all those checkpoints that you'd layered in from a training point of view are there and are actually being improved on. That business is going to be successful. It's those that have cut back or the SOPs aren't being followed.
The one to me is the consistent. You mentioned that word, consistency. You can't have it be great when Billy's on and terrible when Willy's on. That type of thing. It's got to be consistent, and then you up the consistency to the levels that you
absolutely
can do. Yeah, 100%. 2 last questions we ask everybody. One, if you won the golf lottery, i.e. you won as much money as you can imagine, but you could only spend it on golf, what would it be?
Can we come back to that question? Because I didn't really...
Okay.
Edit that one.
Oh, this is another one you might have to think about. You got one game of golf left in your life. Where would you play? And who would you play with and why?
I guess, I'm a humble person, actually, although I've done some fun stuff in my career. As I mentioned earlier, I've sort of got an affinity with playing golf down in Spain. I'm fortunate enough to play, reasonably often at Valderrama. So I guess it would have to be Seve, and probably invite Rory and my father.
Yeah.
That'd be a wonderful thought.
Your father's still alive?
He is.
Oh, amazing.
He is still alive. Stopped playing golf. He's now 86. Probably stopped playing golf about 10 years ago. But I think that would be a special four-ball.
Yeah, that would be very special. Yeah. It's funny, that question. Everybody really thinks about that. And usually it's a family member. It's usually either Seve, Tiger, or now Rory.
Is that right?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So Neil at Royal Dornock, he said, my father who'd passed away, because he idolised his father, he said Seve because I idolised him, and my wife because I like being with her. And it's a great four-ball.
Great.
At Royal Dornock. So, I think it's because it's your last round. It's kind of, it has to be.
Got to connect the dots,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And to winning the golf lottery, I think that certainly as I get to my age, it's like having a Wentworth style. I like the country club idea, and I've always been around members clubs. It'd have to be somewhere, probably Florida, nice and warm throughout the year, with all those. But I think some Britishness to it in Florida, with all those incredible. Definitely paddle, which is my new sport I'm enjoying, and a really great gym and incredible golf course. Yeah, I think that would be phenomenal in a great location.
That wouldn't be too bad, would it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Been a great insight into insight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.